Oh, that's right. They are supposed to be intimidating, aren't they? War of the Centaurans. I've said this consistently every time Chibnall's era decides to bring back classic monster. I really do enjoy the way he has been revamping them. His Cybermen were really freaking terrifying. I love the way he revamped the Daleks in Revolution of the Daleks, and this is another fine example of what he does when he actually decides to revamp them. Because one thing no one's really taken into account, ever since the start of the new series, all the other monsters have had a good go at being very imposing forces of evil. Unfortunately, even when the Centaurans came back in season 4, they were never what anyone would call imposing. In fact, they were pretty much dominantly comedic all the way through. And people tend to forget that the Centaurans, when they first premiered back in the Time Warrior, yeah, they actually were pretty damn intimidating villains. And it was nice to actually have an episode that reminded us that, oh yeah, these guys, when they flock en masse and loom towards you with their big ass armies and their exceptional military prowess, yeah, they are actually a force to be reckoned with. And this episode did a very fine job showing that off. And not just for the way they were written, but also for the way they're designed. Their new design looks so freaking good. They make them look like these hulking warriors. Recognizably, their silhouette definitely looks like the classic Centaurans of old. Definitely reminds me of the Centaurans from the Time Warrior, or even the Centauran Experiment. So it was great to see a really solid design that did a good job at reminding us about how imposing they could be. But even then, there are some scenes where you actually see them at their most ruthless. I mean, we're actually reminded that, oh yeah, they do take certain things very personally, especially things like being captured, breaking under pressure breaking under pressure when it comes to interrogation, or even falling for the enemy's machinations. Yeah, they actually tend to get very, very judgmental on that. So much so that the punishments can be pretty damn severe. And there's a great scene where you actually see that. And yes, some of these Centaurans are played again by Dan Starkey, who memorably played Strax. And yes, I did love Strax, and I do miss the Paternoster trio. But again, it's been great seeing Centaurans actually be a legit threat in Doctor Who, which they really haven't been in a very long time. I'm talking decades. But they were not the only thing that was worth talking about this episode. Again, the direction is exceptionally good when it comes to the visuals. All the scenes on the battlefield in the Crimean War, a lot of the shots really utilize great lighting with fog, and the composition's great. There's absolutely foreboding scenes with dead bodies all over the place. There's a whole bit after a battle scene, and of course, as the Doctor's always warned many times, you can't engage Centaurans in battle because they will lay waste to you. After you see the carnage from a battle that unfolds between a bunch of Earth soldiers and Centaurans, notice in the aftermath you don't see any dead Centaurans lying around. That's and the episode films it so damn well to really hit home that, yeah, you should have listened to the Doctor. And going back to the reason why I love the episode The Witchfinders is that I was eager for episodes that had the Doctor actually having to deal with the fact that, oh yeah, I'm a woman, and I'm unfortunately going to all these historical places where they're not going to listen to me because of that. And this is another fine example of an episode that actually takes advantage of this idea. This one definitely doesn't go as in your face as a couple other ones do. This one handles it just well. There's a nice under the surface vibe with some of the more patriarchal lieutenant characters who, here she is talking sense, but of course he can't accept the idea that a woman may know a lot more about this than him. And Jodie really was on the money on this one, particularly in the scene when she's interrogating the Centaurans. And another thing that I said back in my Spyfall review, one thing she's exceptionally good at is stare downs with the villains. And this one has a great one across the desolate, fog-filled battlefield. The episode does not lose focus on her being the prime mover of the entire story. Doctor, and actually another addition, Mary Seacole, who is another obscure historical figure. Another plus to Chibnall. I might even, after Chibnall's run is done, I might even just do a list of the actual legit great things from his era. And one of the things I'm going to point out, where yes, he does a great job with more notorious historical figures like Rosa Parks and Nikola Tesla. He actually seems to be taking it upon himself to shed the light on some more obscure historical figures, like ones where, whether it be because of the system kind of burying them or just because in the ocean of time their contributions may not be as widely recognized as others, Chibnall's been exceptionally good at pointing attention to people whose contributions to history are far more important than we ever gave them credit. And this time focuses on a doctoress named Mary Seacole, who runs a sort of hospital/hotel in the middle of the battlefield, basically a place where the British soldiers can go and regroup and recuperate. And also she actually goes out onto the battlefield to find any sort of living wounded and tries to bring them back. They do a really great job establishing what makes her so important in the annals of history, but also she definitely is not just there for the, oh, we're meeting another historical figure. No, she actually contributes things during the course of the story, especially one major point, which becomes the linchpin in the Doctor's big plan to save the day. Now, with that being said, it's not just the Doctor show. Another thing that they've been able to do exceptionally well is give equal time to the main cast. A weird thing happens in the story. One thing that actually did freak me out is when the Doctor tries to go back to the TARDIS and the TARDIS does not have any doors. Everyone knows how the TARDIS is kind of like a safe space, a place where if you're in there, 8 times out of 10 you're usually pretty well safe in there. But when the TARDIS appears to have no doors, that immediately has you going, okay, what the hell are we going to do now? But then it puts you even more so on the wrong foot when both Yaz and Dan both just disappear. It's very clear that Time has other plans for these two. And obviously so, because Dan winds up back in Liverpool, where he ends up teaming up with his parents, who, for the brief span we get to know them, and the fact that we didn't expect we were going to get to meet them, were, much like Dan, extremely likable and have some great moments and some, I'm not going to call it witty wordplay, but some great moments involving a piece of cookingware. Suffice to say, not since Tangled has a piece of kitchenware gotten such great play in progressing a plot, and Dan really does a good job putting it to use. But even better, during the span of his story, now, yeah, sometimes it's a bit foolhardy that he winds up pretty much going in himself. Why? Because I guess he feels that he has to do it himself. I mean, you could add a line where he says, I don't want to put anyone else in danger, which will effectively make him look more noble and also not so rash. But he's like, this has to be done, but I don't want to put anyone else at risk. But that's a nitpick. Either way, he ends up on the Centauran ship. And as a nice surprise, I wasn't expecting to see him again, but here he is, and I kind of want more of him. The dog soldier Carvanista comes back because, again, he is still beholden to protect Dan. And there's a part of me kind of hoping every single time Dan gets in some kind of mortal peril, I will laugh if Carvanista shows up, even unrealistically so, to save his ass because he's beholden to him. I would laugh so hard if that's how it is every single episode this season. And I think a lot of it is because, again, Carvanista's a fun character, and he's kind of adorable. You just want to pet him because he's a big old pupper. This is a joy for me because I was very skeptical about Chibnall introducing yet another companion to the mix, because I was really excited about just it being the Doctor and Yaz. I was worried that there was going to be another companion who was going to steal the spotlight. And fortunately, but I was also worried that he was going to be underwritten, like, unfortunately, we could safely accuse characters like Ryan were. But no, they've been doing a great job establishing Dan as a very likable character, a very capable character, but also very endearing because he does have some great quirks, but it's also great because of his altruism. So I'm really enjoying him. I'm really digging his character, and I liked his arc in the story. Now, the big one, though, is what's going on with Yaz, with Grey Worm, or his character Vinder, as he's called. You all know him as Grey Worm, but Vinder, they finally get to meet, and there's a great rapport between the two of them. Like, one could leave to wonder if this is the end of Yaz, I wonder where she'll wind up. But, that's just needless fan shipping. Unless Chibnall intends it, then it's not shipping. But they wind up in a very interesting location where they're being asked if they could repair something that comes in the form of what appears to be a group of priestesses surrounding a circle on the planet of Time. Now, again, it's too early to tell, but it seems like Chibnall is going in a much more, I suppose, metaphysical route, maybe something a bit more tangible in the concept of time. Now, for the longest time, we've talked about Time Lords. We've talked about how they have gained mastery over time. But the thing is, time is something that has existed long before they ever came along. So, what if what this place is where time truly did begin? Maybe this is where it all kicked off, and maybe this is what set everything in motion. And it seems like the Swarm and also Azure, with this thing called the Passenger in tow, which, where that guy came from, I have no idea. Comment section, please clarify that. But they show up on the scene. They seem extremely knowledgeable about what this place is and what it truly means to the Doctor. And again, they really are talking to the Doctor like they know a lot more about her than even she knows, which again is hitting home that it's very clear they are not throwing away the timeless child. I am thoroughly convinced that we are going to find out so much more, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to kick off into whatever comes to the future. They are doing a really great job of making the Swarm and Azure forces to be reckoned with. I mean, these are creatures who I would be worried to even be within 10 feet of them, because you're worried of the things they're capable of. I mean, we've already seen that they can essentially disintegrate you just by mere touch alone if they will it. That's scary enough. But to find out that they could be at the epicenter of what the flux is, and seeing as the fact that what we've seen the flux do to planets, could the flux be like some sort of future manifestation of what the Swarm and Azure have planned? We don't know, but there's enough in this particular thread of the plot to make you intrigued, and also to find out that the gentleman from the 1820s who's building all the tunnels, the fact that he actually has some weird play in this, and the fact that he just randomly shows up, again, makes you wonder what is going on that he's able to just randomly appear in this place. There's a lot of mystery and there's a lot of intrigue, legit intrigue, like the kind that actually makes me really excited to jump into the next episode. For me, I can tell that things are going well for a season when I'm actually really ravenous to jump into the next episode. And much like the first one, especially with the crazy-ass cliffhanger, which in a very teasing fashion gets resolved off screen, which I hope we get some kind of resolution on that, but at the same time, though, it's pure Doctor Who that you do the memory cheat resolution to a cliffhanger. But this one also leaves you with another cliffhanger, which actually puts Yaz in a pretty damn precarious position. One that, again, how do you get out of the situation? You don't know. There's a preview for the next episode, so something happens. I don't know. I'm back in the saddle of being extremely excited about the next episode of Doctor Who. Now, again, we are only 1/3 through the story arc, so whether or not this whole thing is a big success yet will depend on where we land, but I'm still loving it. I'm still having a great time with it. I suppose there could be some nitpicks. I mean, all the Centaurans decide to go back to top up all their fluids, not work in shift. It seems a bit odd, especially for brilliant militaristic tacticians. That's kind of like in video games when the big boss, for some reason, decides to show off his vulnerable spot. Why do they do it? We don't know, but hey, it gives us a fighting chance. So yeah, that's my take on War of the Centaurians. Continuing to have a great time with this season. Jim Bell didn't lose me at the end of season 12 like he did like with a lot of other people, so I'm jumping in this with much more optimistic eyes, and I'm happy to see my optimism being pretty well rewarded. So, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you feel that this is going off into directions that you really don't want to go to? Or do you feel like this may actually change your mind about a lot of things that came before? Leave it in the comments below, and for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe, click, thou shalt be served.